Hi, my name is Beatrice and I'm a junior. And this is where I live. If you'd look where I live, you'd think my life is pretty much like yours. But if you really knew me, you know there's more to the story. I'm a first-generation immigrant from Brazil, and that means that life in my house can be crazy and chaotic and a little bit unconventional. And for example, we speak Portuguese at my house. So it's not always super easy for my parents to figure out school stuff when it's in a different language. And sometimes at parties and stuff, I feel a little bit out of place and like I don't fit in, and even a little bit marginalized. But one thing I've learned from being in an immigrant family is to just embrace my identity, even if it's not like everyone else's, and to be confident in exactly who God made me to be. Hey, I get it, every family has a story. But you can't really know me until you know what it's like where I live. This isn't just my home. It's part of my story, and it's personal.
What's up, CC High School students? I hope you guys are having a great week. We are going to get ready and dive into It's Personal Week 3. Now, one of my favorite superhero movies that just came out is Black Panther. When that movie was first released, we were introduced to a hero with an incredible story. In a matter of a couple hours, it felt like the world was saying Wakanda forever, and it was the coolest thing. But to really understand the character of Black Panther, we had to understand where Black Panther came from. Now, before I saw this movie, I didn't know a single thing about Wakanda, and I don't think that I was the only one. That's why I think it's so great that this whole movie starts out with explaining who Black Panther was and where Wakanda is and where Black Panther came from, so we can truly understand Black Panther as a hero. And I kind of think that that same thing is true for us. Like, think about this. How many people in our schools, in our neighborhoods, on our teams, or even in your small group in this room right now really know who you are or where you come from? We might feel confident that we know some of the stories of our friends at school or our friends in our small group because, we know what kind of movies they like, we know what kind of music they listen to, or what kind of home they come from. We think we know the whole picture based off of things that we just see. But that's not really the case, is it? We can know a lot about a person, but we don't really know them. Just like in Black Panther, there's a really good chance there's more to the stories of the people around us than we see or know. Because this is what I know is true, that everybody has a backstory. In each and every person we think we know, there's more to their story that we can see. And if we really want to know someone, we have to understand where they come from. We have to see more than just what's on the outside. We have to understand the people, the experiences, the beliefs, and all of that to really understand who they are. Now, I think you know what I mean because you have a backstory. You know that in your own life, there's more to you than what meets the eye or what people see, what you let people see. Maybe you got into a fight with your sibling this week and you thought, they'd understand if they knew all the friend drama going on right now. Or maybe you turned in a paper late and you're like, well, the teacher would understand if they knew that the power went out this week or that I lost Wi-Fi and I couldn't turn my assignment in on time. Or maybe you stopped texting a friend back and you're like, well, they would understand if they knew how depressed I am right now, and that's why I'm not responding. You see what I mean? There is stuff going on that you wish other people would consider. That's your backstory. It is what you are dealing with behind the scenes. It's where you are coming from right now. And if you're like me, you wish people would just take that into consideration a little bit more often. But I think the big question is, do we take that into consideration for other people as often as we want that taken into consideration for us? Sometimes I don't. I'm going to be honest. I don't take that into consideration. And a lot of the times I don't realize that I don't take that into consideration until well after I probably should have. We rarely consider the backstories of other people. We don't often stop to consider where they're coming from. And because of that, we don't ever personally know them. So how do we begin to see the backstory? How do we make an effort to understand where people are coming from? And thankfully, Jesus gave us a great example to follow, so let's check this out. So over the past couple of weeks, we've been looking at a cool story from the life of Jesus about a guy named Zacchaeus. Now, we've talked about how Zacchaeus was in the tree and Jesus called his name and all that stuff, but what we really want to focus on is who Zacchaeus was. We talked a little bit at the beginning about superheroes and their stories and their backstories. Now, Zacchaeus was more of like a super villain. He was the tax collector. He cheated people out of their money in order to maintain his own wealth and his own life and his own place of status. But Jesus called him out of that tree by name and said, dude, I am coming to your house and we are going to hang out. And that was so unexpected and so countercultural for Jesus to do. Like, I don't know about you, but I can't really picture Zacchaeus being like, yo, Jesus, what do you want on your hot dog? Mustard or ketchup? Or like preparing a meal for him. Like, that just seems weird to me. But we're going to dive into scripture and look at what really happened. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And again, I realize that might seem a little strange to us. And like I said, it was countercultural, it was wild. But when I say it was unexpected and it was wild, for the people that were there, it was absolutely insane for Jesus to do what he did. You see, there's something about where we live that says a lot about who we are. And Jesus coming into Zacchaeus' home was so unexpected and so personal that Jesus was stepping into that personal place of Zacchaeus. Jesus wanted to make it personal with Zacchaeus. Sure, he's Jesus and he already knew everything about Zacchaeus, but he still decided to take a step into his world to get to know him. Jesus made it personal with Zacchaeus when he took a step to understand where Zacchaeus lived. Visiting Zacchaeus' home meant that Jesus would get to know him in a very personal way. Jesus would get a glimpse into the important part of Zacchaeus' backstory. Again, of course, Jesus already knew Zacchaeus' backstory because he's Jesus. But that visit showed Zacchaeus that he was accepted, story and all. See, where we live isn't just a physical address. It's a place that gives others a glimpse into our personal circumstances, situations, and our day-to-day lives. Where we live is a part of our backstory. It's the part that most people don't get to see. And what's cool about what Jesus did for Zacchaeus was an example of something that Jesus does for you and for me too. While he may have walked into just one man's house that day, it is a great example of the way God stepped into all of our lives when he chose to send his son Jesus to the earth. The God who created the universe stepped into our world to understand where we come from. It's personal because Jesus understands your story. He knows our stories because he knows where we live and what it's like to walk in our shoes. He doesn't just see and understand a little bit about us. He knows us because he knows our whole story. And he loves us no matter what. If the way that we treat other people is going to be personal, then we have to choose to understand their stories just like Jesus does for us. So where do we start? Well, before we get to know others, we might just need to become known ourselves. And what I mean by that, our first step might be to acknowledge that Jesus wants to know you personally. He does know us already better than we know ourselves, but you might need to invite him into your story. He wants to be a part of your life in a real and personal, tangible way. You can talk with your small group leader or a friend that you trust about what it means to follow Jesus and experience life the way that he says is best for you and what he wants for you. Then it might be time to let someone else into your story. That step might mean sharing more of your story with someone else. Not like a random person or a stranger, but someone that you really trust, someone who wants to be a part of your story and wants to know your story better. That could be a trusted friend or a small group leader, or maybe a family member that you don't open up to very often. Maybe you're in a place where you want to make it personal with others, the way that Jesus did for you. You can do this by giving someone the gift of going second. And what I mean by that is you taking that step to share your story first. Sometimes for others, it takes one person sharing their story to give them the courage to share theirs. And that could mean sharing a little bit more about yourself in your small group or in your friend group. Giving someone that next step to be like, well, they did it, so I can do it too. You're giving someone that bravery by you taking that step. And when someone does share their story with you, make sure that you choose to listen and ask questions to learn more. When you show someone you care by listening and wanting to know more, you show them how personal getting to know their story is for you. Just imagine if you knew the stories of your classmates, teammates, and neighbors. Maybe imagine if that was something you took personally. You'd start seeing people for who they really are instead of who you think they are. You'd become known as a person who really cares, who really wants to get to know their friends and the people around them. You actually have an opportunity to do just that in your small group. It's a place to ask questions, listen, and learn to get to know someone's whole story. And you can share your story with them in return. So remember, it's personal because God understands your story and Jesus understands your story. And as you get ready to share a little bit more of your story with your small group today, I want you to think about this. What is one thing most people really don't know about me? And share that in your small group. Have a great rest of your week, you guys.